Yeah, so yeah, just been not doing much actually, just living my life, I guess. And yeah, like hopefully everyone out there is well. Just a moment. Is that really? Are things really that bad? I always have this problem. I think it's just when I sit down. Oh, that's wrong the other way. Let me do it the other way. Yeah. Okay, all right, that's wrong that way. Okay, that's not too bad. Yeah, so as I said, like I just caught Tony out on China Update Tony. He basically called Chinese people terrorists. I've got the little, where is it? Here. I'll play it.
Bloomberg Intelligence argues that now Chinese tourists are headed. Bloomberg Intelligence argues that now Chinese tourists are headed overseas.
Yeah, so I might include that in the thumbnail or whatever. But basically, China Update Tony basically was like calling Chinese people terrorists, and yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. I mean, it's just like that really goes to show his mentality. I think the fact that he would say that, because yeah, it's a slip of the tongue, it's a Freudian slip, but that obviously shows like what he truly thinks about Chinese people, like they are terrorists or whatever. And yeah, pretty sad, pretty pathetic. And yeah, the title of my video is serpentza and whatever going too far as well. I watched their video, part of it today, just a little bit, as much as I could handle. And basically, you know, like those guys have gone way too far. You know, like there was a big car accident in Meizhou in Guangdong. I was close to there just recently. And basically, they're like making light of it, making jokes about it. They were playing this John Denver song, Country Roads, like laughing their heads off or whatever. And it's just like unbelievable. Like, it's just a matter of like, how low can you go? Like, how low can you go? And obviously, pretty low. You can go pretty low, because it can get to the point where you're just laughing about people losing their life, you know, whole families losing their lives in these kinds of terrible disasters that happen all over the world. But when you're that obsessed about the Chinese government and the Chinese political system, you'll just find a way to connect everything to that one thing. And I could also mention old Lewis, you know, because he's recently published a video about taking the mickey out of some young girl, Afrikaans girl, living in China, presumably teaching English. And he's basically like just made this video laughing at her and saying, well, she can't really explain herself very well and she's not very bright and whatever. But that's somebody who's living in China, trying their best. And she's pointed out a couple of things that are true. She's pointed out that in China, like she's used the example of beer, which is not like a very, it's not one that I think is the most interesting. I mean, the fact of the matter is that a lot of foreigners, rightly or wrongly, do feel as though they do have, in a sense, more personal freedom when they come to China. But that's not just true for China. I mean, that's true for a lot of similar countries, developing countries or whatever. I mean, the Western world is like highly kind of regulated, if you will, and a lot of people feel that they have more personal freedom in other places. And I'm definitely one of those people. Like, I feel like when I'm in China, I can sort of walk around. The only problem being is that people stare at me and I'm visibly like not one of them. But apart from that, I sort of do feel as though I do have the freedom. Like I'm not necessarily worried about skipping over the street and getting in trouble with a police officer or whatever it is. So yeah, that's definitely real. And Lewis can pretend that these people are like foolish or they're idiots or they're losers or whatever, but that's just how it is. I mean, people feel under pressure, people feel trapped in Western countries. Like if you're not like a really successful person, you can just feel as though you're under a lot of pressure and under a lot of stress to just even in daily life, just walking down the road, you can feel that like you've got to walk down the road this way. If you walk down the road that way, you could be, you know, pulled up or told that you're doing the wrong thing. So she was right to mention that. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, everything's quite well. Looking forward to the end of the semester. I've been just being a little foreigner in China today, riding around on my electric bike. People who've seen the channel before might notice I've got some different furniture now. I'm very proud of my furniture that I have now. It's pretty cool. It's that kind of like Chinese Chinese redwood furniture. I'm not sure how sustainably harvested it was or anything, but it's definitely like quite good looking stuff, and it should last for a long time. It should outlast me. So yeah, I'm quite happy with it. And yeah, there's a bit of a story behind it, but I'm not going to talk about that in this video. And yeah, just continuing the journey as it is, as it were. And it's definitely getting warmer. It's getting warmer and warmer. There's a lot of warm weather coming, and it's getting up into the high 20s, getting into the low 30s even. So next week it should be, I think we've got a couple of days of cooler weather, but then it's into the higher numbers, which is warm, which is very warm. And in the northern hemisphere, of course, you get all of the trees pushing water vapor out of their leaves. It's a deciduous part of the world, and you get a lot of humidity as a result of that. And yeah, it is what it is. But it's enjoyable. It's really enjoyable. And winter just seems like such a distant memory. Like it's very hard to imagine that there is a winter anywhere in the world at this point. Like it's just everything's green, and it's hard to remember that it was so barren and so grey and so bleak now. So it's quite cool. I've also noticed that they're doing a lot of house restorations around where I live. So individuals are restoring their houses. There's a lot of activity. And in terms of the real estate market, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the real estate market is in great shape, but it's certainly not slowing down from what I can see. There's more buildings going up, and yeah, it sort of seems to be like there's a big boom and then there's a silence. I mean, we're sort of in a big boom right now, so it's like in a storm before the end of the storm. Maybe there's a lot of noise. There's more noise than ever. But yeah, it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. Like I'm just scratching my head because where I live, and I presume this is common across China, there's still a lot of projects that are being finished. The one thing I would say, they're being finished on a budget, and the curbs I saw were like really cheap concrete moldings, and they're not granite or whatever. This project I looked at today, so that's quite interesting. That might be an indication that they've been ordered to finish, and it doesn't really matter to what standard, but as long as the project itself is finished. Another funny thing about China, people might not know if they haven't lived in China, is the parking. People don't want to pay for parking, so a lot of communities will have like underground parking. That's really fantastic. Like I would definitely be paying for it. When I lived in Qingdao, I used to keep my motorbike underground, and it was fantastic. I quite like underground car parks. I mean, it might seem a bit bizarre to say, but if I could live my life again, I would almost like to be a civil engineer and design underground car parks. I really love underground car parks. But in China, a lot of people just don't want to pay for them. So the car parks are often empty, and the streets are just covered in cars. So that's something that you'll something that you'll notice. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to really sort of say too much else about what's going on. I mean, I didn't want to make this video a very long video, but in terms of my semester, I've got 1 more week of general classes, and then I've agreed to help a colleague with some like proofreading of some papers, some master's papers, and then I've got 4 more weeks of a business semester class, business English class, and obviously, like, what do I know about business? I always say to the students, like, I'm just some crazy little guy, like I don't know about business, but I have worked for businesses, and I show these this YouTube channel Upflip, which is like all of these American business people, and most of the students are female, so I've shown some like female type businesses like candle making and whatever. But I've said to the students, like, don't worry about the gender of the person, don't worry about any of that, just think about their attitude. So they have been a lot of businesses that I'm sort of more interested in, like fence building and deck building and paving and epoxy flooring and all this kind of stuff, which is quite cool. But yeah, that's basically, we've got a textbook, and I'll spend time on the textbook, and then I'll teach something called Harvard Managed Mentor, which is like a set of classes about different aspects of business, like leadership, crisis management, accounting, whatever it is, like in a very simple way. And then like I'll just like get into this this Upflip. I'll show the video, and I'll go around the room, and I'll say, can everybody say something they learned from this person, learned from this business person? And yeah, quite cool. So anyway, that's got 4 more weeks to go. And then I'll be able to go to Australia, return to my country of origin for a little bit. I've got some things to do. Well, a couple of things to do. I've got to see a couple of important people in my life who are getting a bit older, and yeah, say good day to them. And yeah, it'll be tough to say goodbye to those people, to be honest. I mean, it'll be tough to leave Australia again, probably, because when you grow up in a place, it's sort of, yeah, I mean, in your mind, it's always, I get influenced by the media, and I start to think that Australia is this or Australia is that. But I'm sure when I get back there, I'll be sort of quite moved and quite touched by lots of small things, and lots of small changes as well. I mean, we've got a new sovereign, we've got new banknotes, we've got a new government, we've got all kinds of things that are new that I haven't experienced. So yeah, it'll be interesting, but I don't want to spend too much time there because it's an expensive country. It's a very expensive country. I mean, I don't want to spend 100 RMB for a burger or whatever. I mean, I'm used to paying 30, 40 RMB for a hamburger and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be quite interesting, but we'll see how it is. And the winter time, I've always liked the winter in Australia. I've always liked the summer as well, but the winter, I've always liked the winter. I mean, I never really had any negative views about the winter until I came to China. But in northern China, the winter is it's pretty cold. You have to wear thermal leggings, and you have to wear gloves, and you have to wear thick jackets, and if you don't, it's a matter of survival. It's not some kind of choice that you have. Like, you have to take these kinds of measures, or you're just going to end up hypothermic. You're going to end up in a mortuary. You know, it's a very serious thing, the weather in northern China. And I'm not even that far north, like in the far north, like in Harbin, it's even more extreme. Like, people fully just succumb to the frost. Like, it's just deathly winter. So yeah, where I am, it's actually, people say it's mild, but to me as an Australian, like, it's very, very cold. And yeah, I've got a cupboard here. I could open a cupboard. I've got like is it in there? Yeah, it's in there. I'm looking at it now. You can't see it, but I'm looking at it. But that's like a sleeping bag. I slept outside with my American friend in like minus 20 degrees Celsius, which is like one of the coldest nights where I live. But yeah, I just wanted to prove that I could do it. And yeah, it was quite funny because my friend, really nice guy from Kentucky, but he was telling me all about this kind of military stuff. And that sleeping bag is a Chinese version, a Chinese copy of a very expensive European brand. So it's called Nature Hike. But yeah, it was still like over $1,000 Australian. And I was very comfortable. I was very warm. I was very warm. I was very warm. And we slept in hammocks and, sort of side by side, like he was about 3 or 4 meters away from me in this hole we found. And he was using all this army equipment. And I just sort of said to him, I said, Michael, like, I'm not doubting you. I'm not like saying you're wrong, but aren't soldiers like highly, highly fit, like 20-year-olds? Like, yeah. And also, like, aren't most soldiers quite unhappy with their equipment? Like, I mean, I'm not like a military expert, but aren't most soldiers like kind of a little bit unhappy with their equipment? Like, they're not content? Like, isn't it just government stuff, like cheapest kind of stuff you can buy, mass-produced sort of stuff? And I just had the idea that I was going to use something that maybe like a rich dentist or a brain surgeon would use to like climb Mount Everest and, or a billionaire tycoon or whatever. And yeah, it was really warm. So I did definitely like choose the right equipment. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it'll be interesting to go back to Australia. And yeah, if you're watching this, thanks for coming. There are a couple of people watching now. And yeah, this whole chat is just like, I'll repeat it. We've got like Tony from China Update. Listen to this.
Intelligence argues that now Chinese terrorists are headed.
Yeah, Chinese terrorists. That's what he's called them, terrorists. So it was obviously a slip of the tongue. I mean, I'm sure that he wouldn't want to publicly describe Chinese people as terrorists. I mean, privately maybe, but yeah, publicly you wouldn't want to do that. It's just a slip of the tongue. But it was a Freudian slip, and that goes to show that, yeah, exactly the kind of person he is and what he really thinks about Chinese people. They're terrorists. I mean, I can't think of a worse label for a person or a country or a group of people than to call them terrorists. And that's the mentality of these people. It's really, really sad. It's really sad that it's come to this. And I do worry about the future sometimes, but I don't really, because I'm a pretty optimistic person. But there are definitely these guys that come out of the woodwork and you don't expect them to be who they are. But yeah, I mean, they're people that don't like humanity. They don't like themselves, and they don't like an entire continent. Well, the people that I don't like is the audience of serpentza. I mean, serpentza and laowhy86 have gathered. Yeah, nice one, Sleepy Joe. Yeah, I appreciate that, bro. Yeah, I mean, serpentza and laowhy86 have gathered, this group of people from all around the world, like the worst people from all around the world, millions and millions of people, really terrible people, not very smart people, and people with bad character, low character. And these are the kinds of people who will laugh about a family plunging plunging off a road. I mean, laowhy86 and serpentza, I mean, sometimes I think, like, how low can you go? Pretty low, when you're laughing about people plunging off a road and playing songs like "Country Road, Take Me Home." When you're making jokes like that, that's a pretty low, evil place to be. And that's the audience that they've gathered. They've gathered all of these horrible, horrible people from all over the internet. And I hate to say it, I mean, because we're talking about millions of people. But there are millions of people that support those guys that are just terrible people. And I'm not afraid to say it. I mean, I guess I've got the protection of the internet, anonymity, I don't know. But yeah, really terrible people. And yeah, it's just like, it sort of surprises me, but it doesn't. It surprises me, but it doesn't. Sleepy Joe, I like your comment. Tony is biased, but acts like he isn't. Yeah, he's massively biased. I mean, he's massively biased. He acts like he's sort of like AI, like he just can't take a side, but he's obviously taken a side. I mean, look, Sleepy Joe, I'm an Australian. I'm not Chinese, but at the same time, like, I definitely believe in China getting a fair crack. Like, just treat them fairly. Like, they're just, they're doing their best. They're building their country. They're a peace-loving, as far as I can tell, they're a peace-loving country. Like, I'm yet to see a war that China has started. I'm just waiting for it. Like, I keep getting told that they're militarily aggressive and they're terrible, evil people, but I can't find a war that, that they've started yet. So Yeah, I appreciate that comment. And the thing about a guy like China Update, he's got people paying him money, very naive people, probably not very nice people, probably bad people actually, but they're paying him money because they want this hatred. They want this hatred to keep coming, to keep building. And describing the Chinese as terrorists is just an indication of how evil and how terrible a guy like that is, and his audience, and his audience. Pretty much anyone who hates China, who doesn't like Chinese people, is welcome to come onto his channel. That's where they have their safe place, and that's what I don't like about serpentza and laowhy86. Anyone who hates China, who hates the Chinese people, their channel is a safe space for them because there's really no limit as to what they can say. There's no respect whatsoever at all. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, everybody, I suppose, aspires to live a good life. But so yeah, he says here, Sleepy Joe said here, he's going after the same crowd as serpentza. He wants to live that YouTuber life, so slandering China is the easiest way to go about it. Yeah, maybe it could be the easiest way to go about it. It could be a way for him to actually go about living this life, just sort of saying bad things about China. I mean, I'm not sure it's that simple. I don't think you can get on YouTube and just kind of say that China's the worst country in the world and you'll get money, but you'll definitely get respect from the likes of serpentza and laowhy86 and China Update Tony. I mean, like talking about the real estate before, like I'm not saying that the real estate sector in China is in great shape, but I'm walking around and they're building more and more. Like they're finishing buildings. Like they might be finishing them to a lower standard than like 5 years ago, but they're finishing them. And I don't mean like in terms of safety or anything like that. I just mean like maybe curbs and landscaping and stuff. They might be doing it on a little bit of a budget. I'm not sure. I'm not necessarily able to make that conclusion, but that that might be happening. But they're definitely finishing things, and there's a lot of activity. And what are we talking about? We're talking about maybe a 5% drop, a 10% drop in price. I mean, life goes on. I mean, that's not going to be the end of the world for the Chinese. But the way these guys talk about it, it's the end of the world. The end of the world is coming. China's just going to give up. There's going to be no more tea. There's going to be no more pandas. The rice cookers are going to be empty. Everyone's going to be crying. And they're prophets of doom. They're massive prophets of doom. And it's just really sad. It's really, really, really sad. And another thing that was really sad today, I saw on laowhy's stream, laowhy and serpentza stream, they're showing some like Africans getting beaten by Chinese people, and they're making out like this is like somehow a part of the Belt and Road project. I mean, yeah, really just terrible, terrible stuff. I mean, yeah, like what can you say about that? I mean, it's just like anything that they can do to sort of like slander and denigrate like a big policy like that. Look, people are entitled to make judgments about different things, and people are entitled to say, well, I don't agree with that, or I like this, or I like that. But to kind of like suggest that there's some sort of like relationship between some guy beating someone up in some like grainy video and some like huge infrastructure project, which is basically the Lyndon de la Rouche infrastructure project for the world, picked up by the Chinese and made real. I mean, Lyndon LaRouche was a guy who ran for US president many, many times, and he had this idea that they were going to build infrastructure across Eurasia and connect Asia to Africa and connect all of the world's continents and all of the world's markets, and that was going to lead to like more general prosperity for like countries in the Southern Hemisphere and countries in the global South, quote unquote. And the Chinese basically picked that up and have attempted to make it real. And that's something that I think is a really good thing. I mean, there's a huge like infrastructure deficit. Like I haven't traveled all around the world, but I've certainly traveled a little bit in China. And even in China, there's a huge infrastructure deficit. And you can just see the big difference that infrastructure makes. So logically speaking, logically thinking, I can imagine that I know that roads and rail and other infrastructure makes a huge difference. And That's what the Chinese are doing. They're building ports, they're building railways, they're building roads in Africa that are going to deliver prosperity in the future. And I think that, like, most sober-minded, clear-minded people who aren't like viciously opposed to everything Chinese and related to China, like China Tony, think that that's a great thing, think that that's a really good thing. Because yeah, you see it, like I've seen it in China, where you just go to a place and there's just nothing there, and the people are there, but there's, apart from people, there's nothing there. There's no link, no connection. And you think, well, what if they had a road? What if they had a highway? What if they had some way of getting things to market and whatever? And then you see the improvements, and you see the transitions, and yeah, it's really amazing. It's really exciting. And then you see the simple stuff as well, like, someone's going to have a baby. Can they get to the hospital easily and get a checkup? Can they avoid that bad thing that could have happened? Or this kind of stuff. So you can see the benefits of infrastructure, and Africa's into that. The leaders of those governments are into that. I'm not saying that they're the best, most honest people in the world at balancing the books and whatever, but at the end of the day, those projects are going to deliver a much higher standard of living for those people, and it's experience as well. The Chinese are very good at building roads. Serpentza and those guys today saying that the Chinese can't build roads. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, every road can suffer subsidence. I mean, I'm not a road engineer, I'm not a civil engineer, but I definitely can appreciate the fact that natural disasters can take place. But the thing about those guys is, it doesn't matter what the natural disaster is, it doesn't matter where it takes place, they will, number one, they've got like a playbook. They will laugh about it. They will laugh about people's deaths. Okay, that's who they are. That's what they'll do. They will laugh about it. They'll make jokes about it. They'll make light of it. They will blame it all on the government. They'll try to connect it somehow to the government and Chinese culture generally, broadly speaking. They'll try to relate it to the Chinese culture generally, broadly speaking, the Chinese people. And what they try to do consistently is to portray China as a failed state. China's a failed state to them. It's a failed state. But the thing is, it can't be a failed state because it isn't. But they don't want to admit that. They can't admit that. Oh yeah, Laowhy laughed at how the shallow. Yeah. There we go. That's exactly right, Sleepy Joe. Laowhy laughed at the shallow grave in Taiwan, while his then girlfriend, now wife, cried. Yeah, so she's obviously a person with like a heart and a civilized, really sweet girl and really nice person. And unfortunately, she's got him with the wrong guy. And yeah, he just laughed at their grave. Yeah, how terrible is that? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so that's their playbook. That's their playbook. They're waiting for and hoping for any disaster that they can hope to monetize. The more disasters, the better for those guys, because it helps them. It helps them to make money. So they directly make money from basically the suffering and misery of the Chinese people. I'm not running around the world trying to get as emotional as possible and trying to work myself into an emotional frenzy. But if I did actually close my eyes and think about those families on that road traveling to their families, it's something that you just don't want to think about, because it's just so terrible. And for those guys to just laugh about it and just make a big joke about it, I feel sorry for them, actually. Yeah, oh cool. Okay, we've got another person here. Hey man, glad to catch you stream live. Yeah, well, I'm just talking a little bit about China Tony. He's had a slip of the tongue from China Update. I'll play it for you.
Overseas terrorists headed overseas.
I'll play it again.
These terrorists
play it again.
Is that now Chinese terrorists headed overseas.
Yeah, so he's had a slip of the tongue, and he's basically called the Chinese terrorists, which is obviously what he thinks of them. And I've said previously in the stream, like, it's hard to think of another worse thing you could say about the Chinese people than to call them terrorists. It's absolutely disgusting. So he should delete his channel right now, basically. You should do the right thing. But yeah, and then just been talking about serpentza and laowhy86, just profiting, continuing to profit, and look for misery, look for tragedy, and use that tragedy as a way to make money on YouTube. And yeah, I've said, like, there's a playbook. They've got a playbook. Anything terrible happens in China, number one, laugh about it, think of some jokes, make some jokes about it. Number two, somehow ascribe it to the failings of the Chinese people, just broadly speaking, like they're a failed state, they're a failed people. And yeah, talk about your stupid frozen meals that you want people to buy. And yeah, it's very, very sad, very, very tragic what those guys are doing. I mean, it's not as tragic as people's deaths, but it's up there with like something, I don't know, like it's just a terrible tragedy that those guys have turned into. And yeah, like what they should do after this is just delete their channel. Yeah, I've noticed that Lao are doing that. The guy never has anything positive to say. Yeah, terrible. And like with regards to the real estate as well, like I've just said that as well. Like I've seen them building things, and I've seen new projects starting. So this whole end of China, end of the world kind of narrative that everybody's pushing, it's just not really, haven't seen it on the ground. Haven't seen it in real life. I've just seen like pretty much, yeah, the thing going on normally, and a lot of people restoring their houses, a lot of activity, a lot of people getting into their lives and just enjoying their lives. But of course, serpentza and laowhy86, they just can't handle it. They just want it to be what they want it to be, which is the end of the world. But it isn't the end of the world, and it's not a failed state. They want to portray China as a failed state because they hate China. And they've gathered this audience of like the worst people in the world, what I consider to be some of the worst people in the world, millions of them. They've found them with the internet, the power of the internet, they've found them. And they're all together, and they're all, it's really sick. I mean, sometimes I think the government should intervene, like maybe they should just intervene and just delete their channel for them. Or, I mean, that sounds a bit authoritarian, but the thing is, like, gathering all those people, like those awful people together, it's not going to result in anything good. Yeah, it's a mixture of Saudi Americans and Indians. Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture of all kinds of people. I mean, they've got Europeans, but if you're someone that like hates China and hates the Chinese, you're in that chat. I mean, they've found all of these bad people from all over the world, and they've just, they've grown them as well. Because a lot of these people, maybe they were, at this point in the spectrum, they've been dragged by those two guys like further and further and further extreme, to the point now where like this cult of serpentza and laowhy86 is like laughing at the deaths of people on the highway. Like they're playing country roads, they're joking about it, it's like a big joke. It's just terrible. So yeah, really, 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 really upsetting. Really upsetting. Really upsetting. I just can't believe that YouTube allows these guys to get away with it constantly. And little guys like me, we are the resistance, because we're not necessarily like a bit, obviously, like this is such a small channel. We've only got like a few people in the chat, but like at least it's something. At least there's like a record that shows that, a couple of people got together and said, I'm not happy with what they've said. I'm not content with it. And it's almost a bit like the stuff happening on the on the campuses in America. Like we're just saying basically like it's not acceptable. Like we're not going to tolerate it. And you guys who have come in tonight, I hope that you've enjoyed that. I hope you've appreciated it. I mean, I'm not like Chinese myself. I'm not from China. I'm not going to ever be able to like be like a Chinese nationalist or something like that. But what I have always just wanted is for China to get a fair go, for Chinese people to be respected in the world, and for Chinese people to be respected as fellow human beings, fellow citizens on this planet, and like given the credit that they deserve, and just like given the respect they deserve for what they've done, and just like a bit of encouragement, like, hey, good work guys, like nice one, like, hey, how can I help, like this is cool what you're doing, like I like all the stuff you've done, instead of like looking for every tragedy as an opportunity. Thank you, sir. Yeah, thanks, Sleepy Joe. Instead of looking for like every opportunity to sort of find anything, like any accident, any road accident is like this existential like crisis that apparently means that the whole country is like failed, or like the Belt and Road Initiative is a failure because like one individual guy lost his temper or whatever, or was actually defending some innocent people or whatever it was. So it's just really terrible. And yeah, thanks for that, man. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a good goal. I mean, look, anyone should want that. Everyone should want that. The only people who don't want that are the neocons who want to start a war, and these like nasty, evil people in the serpentza crew who basically are like anti-Chinese racists. Like that's what they are, you know, like they don't like 1/5 of the people in the world. They don't like, you know, these people, and that's what they're about. You know, they are angry. They're angry because I guess they weren't treated with enough VIP treatment. They weren't given enough respect. Yeah, they like acting superior. Yeah, they like acting superior. Yeah, for sure. And they just can't manage to like say anything positive. Oh wow. Okay. Wow. And what? Okay. Well, this is getting interesting. So Sleepy Joe says he knew them from 10 years ago in Shenzhen. And what were they like? What were they like then? I mean, I lost faith with them a little bit when they did the Qingdao thing, because they went into this petrol station I used to go to, and they wore their helmets and stuff, and they made a huge deal about being denied service. But I mean, like, I went into that service station a couple of times. Like, it was a service station. I made a video about this, but it was a service station just for trucks. It was a petrol station for trucks, and they're there in their helmets. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Thursday 8, Laowhy has a Chinese wife. How is she okay with? Well, she'd be busy with her own stuff, wouldn't she? I mean, she'd be busy with their kids and stuff. She's probably just oblivious to it. But yeah, their children, when they grow up, I mean, they're gonna. A friend of mine said that. He said, "Well, what are their children gonna think?" You know, and yeah. But yeah, what were they like, Sleepy Joe? I mean, what were they like back in the day? I guess a lot of us saw Serpentza's videos from that period, and we kind of liked them. But yeah, like then he just totally flipped. He totally flipped. So yeah, but yeah, like I was saying about the petrol station, I mean, so then I kind of was like, oh, okay, like that was, you know, and then I knew the motorbike shop. They shipped their motorbikes up to Qingdao. They didn't ride them up, and they kind of gave the impression they rode them up. Okay, I saw them around okay, I can't say that, but Shuiwei village a few times. Okay, and what were they like? Just like, when did you stop liking Laowhy? Me? Yeah, okay. I saw them around. Okay. You saw them around. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. You guys are talking amongst yourselves. That's cool. Yeah, I've never seen them in real life or anything, but yeah, I mean, I'm not like exactly looking for that opportunity. I mean, look, the main, like, as people, forget the China. If you don't think about the China stuff, maybe they're just a couple of guys that like to drink a couple of beers, like just regular guys, like not too bright, just, yeah, that's it. But the fact that you're asking me, okay. When did I stop liking Laowhy? Yeah, I mean, I just, I guess when they started to become more kind of like, in general, they were loud and obnoxious, laughed at locals. Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of stuff. Yeah, I just sort of started to question their like genuineness. Like I started to think maybe they were just, yeah, I don't know. I just started to think that they were a little bit like, yeah, a little bit arrogant, I guess. I don't know. Like I think that's when it started. And then when like some comments started to come out, and yeah, some like serious comments started to come out, that's when I was kind of like, whoa, like these guys are like seriously like, you know, deranged. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, those guys, I mean, they had the potential. They could have gone either way. They went the way they went. Yeah, they went the way they went. They went the way they went. But yeah, Laowhy, I mean, there's so many instances that I could give you about Laowhy, like where I stopped liking him and lost the faith. But yeah, there's been a few. There's been a few. I mean, I've talked about this in videos. I mean, I'd have to like go back and watch them to completely remember. But yeah, there's been a few moments where it's just like, yeah, point of no return. I mean, I definitely was never like a massive fan of Laowhy because I just thought his like whole personality was just kind of wrong, just the way that he behaves and speaks and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, but then when he started to make like very specific comments and whatever, and just like tried to make out like, okay, this is the big thing. Those guys, especially Laowhy, their whole idea is that China is this evil, terrible thing. Okay, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I haven't seen any evidence of it. Okay, I haven't seen any evidence of it, and I don't believe it. Do I believe there's like some kind of psyop that's trying to make me think that? Yeah, there is, absolutely. But I haven't seen it with my own eyes, and I don't believe it. Okay. Now, those guys, they parrot that. They parrot this narrative that China is this evil thing, that it's a terrible thing, that at its heart, it's something bad. And my view, my personal view, is that at its heart, in its core, it's something good. And that's my main disagreement with those guys. Like, I'm not like that ridiculous that I disagree with them because I don't like the clothes they wear, or I don't like their manner or something like that. I mean, that's the disagreement, and I'm not going to resile from that perspective, from that view, because I don't see the reasons for their way of thinking other than the fact that they're just benefiting from the psyop. You know, they're benefiting from the psyop financially, and they're along for the ride, like they're puppets. And the fact that they want to call people like me puppets, I mean, they want to call us puppets, they want to call us shills. I mean, how pathetic can you get? I mean, somebody comes to China and they say positive things about this great country, this amazing country, and they're a shill or they're a puppet or whatever it is. I mean, somebody goes to America and they say positive things about America, they're just like a cool guy who just gets America. Well, use your brain, use your logic. America's not perfect either. No country in the world is perfect. So, like, you know, why is someone a shill for pointing out things that are good? And why is somebody like so cool and they get it? Because they're going along with the psyop that in the very heart of China, or deeply embedded within the DNA of China or the culture of China, is something bad, something aggressive. Where are these Chinese wars? Where are these Chinese crimes? I just don't see them. I see a country of harmony and prosperity and peace and tranquility. I mean, these things are very, very important to me. And I see them building things and doing their best and trying to make their country better and better. So, yeah, I mean, my mum used to say to me, and this is very wise words from her, it'd be a boring world if everyone was the same. It'd be a boring old world. I mean, that's just, she's repeating a proverb that was a very common proverb when I was young. But now we live in a world where everyone has to be the same. Every country has to be the same. Every country has to be trying to be exactly like America. And if you're not, well, you're evil. And like, I find that to be completely asinine, completely at odds with just even the most basic streams of logic. Why is like one country good and one country bad just because it's not the same as the most important or the most powerful country on earth, i.e. the United States? Why can't people organize their own affairs according to their own ideas and their own views about what suits them best? And then, you know, getting very specific. So we've gone up there, we're up in the heights, we're up in the stratosphere, we're up in the higher altitudes. Let's go right down to earth, down to the gutter, and find a couple of idiots drinking beers on the street. And all those guys do is point out and pick out specific tragedies. They've got a channel, it's called like Shabar Ho or Shaban Ho. Okay, they pronounce it like that. And they've got like a photo of some drunk, you know, they've got a whole collection of like videos from WeChat video. We know where they come from. They come from WeChat, of like guys getting drunk and like having accidents and this kind of stuff. Like, it's like funniest home videos or something of China, like all the crazy dumb things people do. Well, guess what? You know, like every country has people that drink alcohol. Every country has people who do dumb things, do stupid things. I mean, is that really your life? Is that really how you make money? Like, I've been teaching this business class. I mean, some people have been here since the beginning. I mean, why don't they do like a epoxy flooring business or a deck business or some kind of business like that where they're just making money and then they can have a little channel? I mean, I'm not telling them how to live their life, but this would be like a way to live your life that didn't involve hating over a billion people and trying to encourage hatred of over a billion people. They could have like a an epoxy flooring business or a decking business or some kind of thing like that, and they'd be such cool guys. They'd be happy. They'd be getting tired from their work. They'd be making money honestly, but instead, what they do is wait for a tragedy to occur in a country called China. And after that tragedy has occurred, they make a little video about it together and they blame the tragedy. This is going to sound crazy, but this is what you're dealing with. They blame the tragedy on the government or the system. No, not on the government. Sorry, I got it all wrong. On the system of government and the culture of the people and the society of the people. Okay, who's the foreign teacher at your school that you respect the most and why? Well, I don't have any colleagues. So, yeah, it's a nice question, but I just don't have any. Yeah, so thank you for the question, though. And that's what they do. That's what they do. And they make money from it. And they laugh about it. So we're all familiar with comedians like, Joe Rogan and who's the other one? Like, all these comedians. We're all familiar with the comedians. They're comedians of tragedies. Any tragedy that happens, and they're going to start making jokes about it. Like, how low can you go? Like, that's how they make money. How they pay for their bills. And then interspersed with all this nonsense, all this evil, terrible nonsense, is an advertisement for some frozen food or some powdery drink or a VPN or something like that. It's just like really, really, really sad. Oh, wow, haha. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I can imagine, I can pretend I have some if you want, and then I can talk about them if you want. But, yeah, there's a lot of different foreigners. I mean, I'm proud to be an English teacher. Most English teachers are just like really nice people that want to come and help Chinese people or wherever they're working. They just want to like do a good job. And yeah, like they're all quite sweet, nice people. And that, that's another thing as well. I mean, you listen to serpentza and laowhy, the way they talk about English teachers, even if you're just like an English teacher, like, okay, all right. Right, got it. So yeah, English teachers are just losers. Right, got it. Okay. Oh, here we go. This is someone who's interested in my English teaching. What would you pinpoint as the most challenging part of being an English teacher? Okay, well, yeah, let's pivot. I would say that like the most challenging part is grading tasks and grading language, because the truth of the matter is, this is getting very specific now, you're never going to get it right. You're never going to get it right. You're never going to, like, you can do your tests, and I mean, if you want to turn your classroom, if you had students all day, every day, you could do a better job at that. But the fact that you have students for like 2 hours a week, that's it. Yeah, so I think that's definitely challenging. That's specific to the job. How did you appreciate that? Do you like that answer? Or yeah, because it's like you're shooting over or you're shooting under. I mean, you're never doing that, like what do they say, like plus 2 or plus 3, making it a bit more difficult. I find that to be challenging. Yeah, in the kind of job that I have. So yeah, and then I don't know. Yeah, well, you asked me the superlative, didn't you? Like the most challenging part of being an ESL teacher. So I would say that. Thank you for the question. That's cool. I like that. But yeah, getting back to the whole serpentza thing. I mean, arrogant, like, about ESL teachers, like, yeah, how ridiculous. Like, okay, classroom management, okay, thinking of original ideas week after week to make boring material interesting. Well, it sounds like you're at an international school or something, at a high school. I mean, if you're in a high school and you've got like a big, so TSU 8, how many students in your classes and what age are the students? What age are they? Because, yeah, you know, that's tough. That's tough. But what I would say is, like, and other people can, yeah, other people can say what they want to say, but I'm a survivor. Like, I'm definitely a survivor, so I don't care what anyone else says. Like, I definitely believe in, like, you've got to, okay, grade 1 to 6 at a cram school in Taiwan. Okay, little kids. Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to manage those little kids. Yeah, you've got to be strong with them. But you can manage those little kids because they'll just give up. They'll just give up. You know, it's like they go, "Rah," and you go, "Rah," and they go, "Oh." You know, you can manage them. You just got to be tough. But yeah, talking about high schools and like 16, 17, I was just going to make a point about that. I'll just finish my point because I am a survivor. You've got to be friends with them. You've got to be friends with them. You can't like lord it over them and overpower them. You've just got to sort of, yeah, you've got to be friends with them and just be friendly with them. And yeah, it's not like the movies, it's not like the TV shows. You're a foreigner, so you've just got to be friends with them. And when you start being friends with them and just talking to them in that way, everything changes and it gets a lot better. That's the only way. But yeah, little guys like that, yeah, you just got to be strong with them. I mean, they're little. I'm sure you can manage it. Yeah, but is it a problem if they're chatting and stuff or interrupting? Like, get your co-teacher to help manage. You need a co-teacher. It's that simple. You need a co-teacher. Yeah, you need a co-teacher. You need a co-teacher. But yeah, I've heard about the schools in that part of China and how it is tough or whatever. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. But I've never been over there, so wouldn't know what it's like. Yeah. But yeah, I love that. I love that question. I love your ESL questions. Do you enjoy teaching those grades? What was your other part? Thinking of original ideas. Yeah, well, I mean, like you've got to think like, yeah. I mean, what I used to do when I used to teach those grades, show like a 1 minute or 2 minute video from YouTube, like from National Geographic, something about frogs or fish or something that they can relate to, something about food maybe, and just do that, like do stuff like that, like week after week after week after week after week. And then you've got a song at the beginning, song at the end, vocabulary, games. I've never been like a big games person, but yeah, they've got little worksheets, like obviously like one really simple one per class. It depends how they're structuring it, but definitely like getting a song going, singing a song, and yeah, that's how I've always done it. But yeah, you've got your own method and whatever. You're not prosy, are you? You sound like prosy. Yeah. Prosy's in my chat. Yeah. But that's what I would do. And those National Geographic videos, one or 2 minute videos are quite cool. They're quite good to use for that purpose. Yeah. All right, guys. So I've been going for about an hour now. I'll end up the chat, but just like I just couldn't believe that Tony guy calling Chinese people terrorists. I just couldn't believe it, and I could believe it. Yeah, you love Prosy. Yeah, I mean, love to Prosy. Yeah, like I mean, Prosy wasn't too bad, was he? He wasn't like the worst person in the world. He's just like trying to make his way in life, wasn't he? But yeah, I think he was happier to get away from those guys. That's for sure. But yeah, certainly a pretty passionate teacher and not ashamed of being a teacher either. That's one thing I'd say, like, because I don't know the guy, but he's definitely someone who said like, hey, I like being a teacher. I like being a teacher. And I respect that. Whereas serpentza and those guys, serpentza and laowhy were always like, oh, I just had to be a teacher, like this horrible job for like, 2 years or whatever. And yeah, he's a lot happier. He's like 5,000 or 6,000 miles away from those guys, and he's a lot happier. Yeah. But yeah, he's definitely proud to be a teacher and happy to be a teacher. Like if you're a teacher, if you are an English teacher, I don't know how you can watch Serpentza and laowhy86 because those guys despise English teachers. Like, they look down on English teachers so much. Like, how can you watch them? How can you watch their videos and enjoy their videos? Like, apart from everything else, like all the China hatred, apart from that, those guys despise English teachers to the max. They're so anti-English teachers. It's really, really sad. I just don't get it. And like, I just want to say, like, I mean, I'm like 41 years old now. Like, I'm a pretty old guy, and I've been teaching for over a decade. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. And I just, like, I'm just scratching my head. I'm trying to think of all these horrible, horrible English teachers. I mean, when you work with people, it's always a bit catty, and there's all like personal dynamics and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to think of these horrible, horrible people. Like, I just can't think of any. Like, they've all been like nice, sweet, kind of normal people that want to work, that want to live in another country. I mean, I'm proud to be one of them. Like, I'm proud to, like, say that I am an English teacher. I mean, they're not like, I've just never met any of these like horrible people that would make me think like that being an English teacher is not a good thing. Like, I've never experienced it. So it's kind of snobbery and whatever when those guys do that. And I guess like in their minds, their audience are like CEOs and like engineers and all these kind of people. But the reality is, most of their channel audience is like ESL teachers or ex ESL teachers, and I would say to those people, like, stop watching their crap. Like, if you're really interested in what's going on in China, get a program called WeChat. Like, watch videos on the channel, and you'll see like all kinds of stuff. It's like Chinese TikTok, Chinese Douyin, and it'll be much more interesting than what those guys show on their stupid channel, which is just like organizing and assembling all of this content that is designed to just support this psyop that China is the enemy, that China is evil, that China is terrible. I mean, those guys have even said repeatedly that like China's like polluted and China's horrible and China's like ugly. Like, those guys are not the only people that have been on little motorbike trips. I've been on motorbike trips too. And even like 30 minutes out of a major city, which is a beautiful city, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's clean. It's natural. It's wonderful. Yeah, and like, seriously, you know, what was it? The Serpentza's recent video. The kids are evil. So the kids are bad. The old people are bad. It's just like, you don't like the kids. You don't like the old people. You don't like the men. You don't like the tiger mums. You don't like what? They don't like anybody. They don't like any Chinese people. They don't like the government. They don't like the like, it never stops. Which of those guys is even still in China? No, they're not in China now. They're out of China. Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. They're in America. They're living on some ranch. Like, it's a really weird ranch. It's a really weird setup. I don't know what it's like. It's apparently it's some kind of farm. Like, it's a ranch. It's like a kind of ranch, and they just kind of live next door to each other. And yeah, like, I want to go to America, but I wouldn't want to come up on their ranch. Like, that's for sure. Like, I wouldn't want to go to a creepy place like that. But yeah, they're on their ranch, and they're just, yeah, I guess they're just on their meds, and they're just making this content, making this hateful content. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we're about to hit an hour, so I'll kill the stream. I've really appreciated your questions, TSU8, and I wish you all the best with your teaching. I've really appreciated you coming on and talking to me. That was really special, really cool. And if you want to send me an email and tell me more about yourself, that would be really neat. I've got my email in the video description, so use the iCloud one. And yeah, I'd really like to chat to you. Yeah, they do. That's what they do. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do. That's what they do. Yeah, it's just all about the revenue. It's all about the ad revenue. Yeah, sad.